Tony Dragster. The Coca-Cola bottlers of Chicago have present the Mr. Chevrolet USA Super Bowl Money Car Showdown. From Pennsylvania, it's three-time national champion Jungle Jim Lieberman. From Dallas, Texas, Mark Higginbotham's Drag-On Vega. From Alabama, the bold one, Bobby Wood. From New Jersey, Bruce Weston's Fantastic USA 1.
So awesome. It's so awesome.
I do love that freaking video, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's time again for another Wednesday night tech talk.
Yep.
I literally flew in here. What's that?
I said I put sicko up there because I've been kind of under the weather for the past 4 days. So.
Yeah, that's terrible, dude. Two Hacks Jeff had the vid from PRI.
Wow.
So maybe you might have caught the leprosy.
Could be.
Who knows? But to kick this off, I guess we'll just greet everybody in here. Danny Boyd's in here. Was the first one in. Uncle Squirrel is blaming squirrels still. Mopar Man 1978. Fab Race Mon Repeat. Hello from Northeast Dragway. You got Wannabe, which is hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So I had a pretty awesome Christmas. Did you, Shane, besides being sick?
Yeah, it was basically it was just us here. We were going to have a New Year, a Christmas Eve, dinner, but we had to cancel it because me and the wife were not feeling well. So, but other than that, it was just really quiet. It was just here, and it was cold and it snowed. So we actually got our very first white Christmas.
And today was literally nice outside. It was like 50 degrees.
I haven't been outside in 4 days. So.
Oh well, trust me, it was 50 degrees and it was nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Calling Tebow saying, hey guys, David James, hello to all from Iowa. And matter of fact, David James gave you that magazine. I think I got to get it from you, right?
I still got it sitting right here.
We didn't even meet up at PRI to get that magazine.
No, I had it with me the whole time too.
Did you really? I totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
We got to do that, dude. But we're gonna meet up here sooner or later. Let's see. We got Testa Speed Shop. Hello, all. The One-Eyed Cat, Don English. Frank Parks says, my weekly check-in from Somerville, Georgia. Hello and Happy New Year to everyone. Hey, Frank. Happy New Year to you, too.
What's going on, Frank?
Let's see here. Bill McKyska is in the house. Danny Boyd. Sunday.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love that intro. Let's see who else here. The James and James show is here.
Oh,
what's up? Hope everyone had a good Christmas. I had a pretty good Christmas. It was all right. Besides the terrible weather that was happening. I mean,
right.
Yeah, but we still had a good Christmas. Made the best of it, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Mostly old parts and Russ Patrick is here. Wendy English is here. So the entire English clan is now being represented from both genders.
Nice.
Let's see. Jackie Abbott, hello. Destroyer 1320 Eric, hey all. And Big Block 402's made it in. And let's see. Big Belly Racing, here's another one. And I think that's it. We're caught up. Jason's Garage just popped in. Howdy, fellers. Hey, Jason, what's happening? I'm glad you guys made it. Shane is kind of sick. But the good thing about doing this on StreamYard is no one's going to get it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, is that I think I'm on the back side of it now. This is the most I've talked in 4 days and the most I've actually done in 4 days. So I'm actually feeling okay right now. Okay.
It looks like I might have two options for my super stock Buick rear end. I might have that 8 3/4, and I think I may have nailed down a 9.3.
I was looking that up, a 9.3 rear end. That was you said it was an old, right?
Yeah. Pontiac or Olds 9.3.
Yeah. They there's a whole company, Fab. They do nothing but those rear ends. They sell complete center sections for those things.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, see, here's where I'm coming out kind of money ahead on this deal is I needed a hogshead for an 8 3/4, right? Because the 741 that I got is not up to the task of holding the guts in when you dump the clutch on it.
Well, I'm going to say something real quick. I had a 741. I had a 360 with a 250 shot of nitrous. Now I was foot braking it, but it was still holding the beans on that. A 741. The only thing about that is the bearing is a little smaller. That is correct.
Right.
But it will still hold some power.
Well, the big one is no one makes any parts for it.
Yes, that's correct.
That's where you're sucking at.
Yep.
So I was going to have to buy a hogshead like a 489 or a 742 to make it work out. And in reality, it's probably not going to work out if I got to buy a whole new hogshead. And the only thing I'm coming out of this deal with is a case. And it needs to be modified, right?
Well, you know what? I just need a chunk. I think I've got an extra 742. I'll trade you. How about that? Because I need one so that way when I narrow my rear ends, I can just put my chunk into it, so I can just put it into the axle, so I can put my piece through there, so I can align the ends on it.
Okay, well, I'll see. It wouldn't be too ridiculous to see how this would all turn out. So John Wilburn saying 8 3/4 rear tech. I got here just in time.
Right.
Well, kind of, sort of. It's probably going to bust your bubble a little bit, John, but I did find the coveted rear end that actually almost bolts in the car, which is a 9.3 Pontiac. And it's stronger than the 8 3/4, and it's stronger than a 9-inch Ford. It's actually in the same realm as the Dana 60. So, but what Shane was telling me about is the high point angle.
Yes.
It may be power hungry. I don't know. That's something that's well worth trying out. And I figured now might be the time to try the discussion that we had about trying to see how much power each rear end would rob. Might be worth it. I don't know. So mostly old parts and Russ is asking. So Professor P, what do you think about NDTA heads with the offset big block rockers?
Those things are awesome. They'll actually flow more than what a stock block can handle to begin with. I don't remember the CFM numbers off the top of my head, but they're north of 300. I think it's like 320 CFM. So I mean that's good for 650 horse. For anyone who's actually building something, that's an amazing head. Because
that's right out of the box.
Yeah, and what's nice about it too is it accepts all factory intakes. You don't have to have a 360-1 intake like I have to have. So you can get a tunnel ram for it. So now you're ahead, way ahead. So I personally, if I could do it again and I didn't have the 360-1s, I would have those TA heads personally. So that way I could get an old school Dominator, or I'm sorry, tunnel ram, because that's what I really would want is a tunnel ram anyways.
So Colleen saying, Shane, you also have the 7 1/4 from Damien's Dart. That's the one you were wanting for your project, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, but it's the problem is that it's the distance, 9 hours away one way. So got to find a way.
You just so happen to know somebody that drives all over the country a lot. And
exactly.
I could probably pick that up for you and bring it back your way, or at least get it 5 hours closer at the beginning.
Yeah, well, you know what? I did think of that, but I didn't think of it at the same time. So that's awesome. Sounds great.
Yeah, we could probably make that work. Big Billy Racing saying, I inherited my dad's 91 Dakota first year with 5.2 TBI, owned since new. Can the air pump be removed? What mods need to be done?
Just remove it. That's all you got to do, and just plug up the parts on it. It's the easiest thing to do on those.
Does it have air injection into the head or anything like that?
Yeah, but you can just plug it off. Well, it depends on the. Yeah, see, the 91's kind of a funny year because they have on some of those heads they do have that, but they go into it's a Magnum. So no, it's not. It's going to be EGR. I'm almost positive on that, but I've done this before, and you just basically just take it off. It's really a simple deal.
Well, most of that stuff can be. Like what I found is like the emission stuff from the 70s and the 80s is literally susceptible to most of the time the ports are drilled at like say a 5/16 hole or a 3/8 hole. And what you do is when it's 5/16, that is a direct hole size that you need for a 3/8 pipe or a tap or a 3/8 tap, right?
Yep.
And then you just run a 3/8 set screw down in there, right? And put a bunch of Loctite on it, and voila, good as new.
Yeah, there's actually a guy on YouTube, and it's funny because I was kind of watching this the other day. He actually has a thing. It says 89 Dodge Ram Charger 318 TBI smog pump delete. Overview part 1. He's got a few parts on it. So yeah, it's a really simple deal. If you've never done it before, you basically just take it off. And like he was saying, there's just a few holes you got to tap and drill out, put a pipe plug in it, call it good. Really simple deal.
Yeah. So Big Block 402 says, I need an almost direct swap rear end for my 65 Ambassador. Ooh, man, that one's going to be tough, but you're lucky in that the AMC products were a lot of off-the-shelf pieces made by all the other manufacturers, right?
They were the sluts.
They did not go too far outside of their own realm. Like, they would have kept the rear end width something that you could have easily got from Chrysler or something from Ford, and you may get pretty dang lucky just digging around doing some research to find that, one, those things came with Danas in them. I believe every AMC product was pretty much a Dana.
Yeah, it's Dana 44 or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Well, the cool thing about the Dana line is they were very much in Jeeps, and the Jeep guys, once you get into the Jeep realm, you are freaking high rolling when it comes to rear ends and gears and spools and the whole 9 yards, because everything's made for those things, right? Everything.
Yeah.
So just check out the width and start seeing what you can find. I bet you that 65 Ambassador is the mid-sized car, so I'm assuming it's probably pretty dang close to a B-body. Oh, Danny Boyd, can you get gears for it? The 9.3 Pontiac, I can get gears. There's a company called FabTech or
That's it. Fabcraft.
Fabcraft. They sell an entire center section.
Yes, it's expensive. It's $2,200.
Yeah, but I have luckily I have the case, so I literally just need the spool, gears, and it to be set up. So that's the cool part about it. It already comes with a case. None of them are really undesirable. They're all pretty brutal and strong. But I just kind of wonder about that hypoid gear. I'd like to get it all here and then do that test, Shane, that we talked about.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And I'm actually looking at it. I was just looking at some of the pictures, and you can clearly see how far that thing down is on the gear ring on the pictures they send you. So you can kind of
pretty low, huh?
It's pretty low. Yeah. Yeah.
So now I'm putting a power hog in there, which I didn't want to do to begin with. That's why I chose the 8 3/4.
Yeah.
John Wilburn says, hey, if you want to go to Pontiac, I'll give you something for the truck housing. Well, that might work out, Shane. John. Shane and I were talking about something similar that you and I have talked about in the past, about doing a test on rear ends. So I think it might be time, man. We might be able to set 2 of them up side by side, because I think the rear end gear ratio in this 8 3/4 is 275 or 278?
276.
276, okay. And then the one that I'm getting in this 9.3 Pontiac is a 270. So technically, gear ratio wouldn't be a factor.
That's
so we could literally run the test to find out which rear end, or if there is any difference between the hypoid angle, the height of the pinion in the housing, on power consumption. It might be worthwhile just testing them out, and we can try some different lubes to test those. I'm telling you, we could really do something neat with having 2 of those set up side by side.
Yeah.
And
I did a lot of this stuff, as far as like rear end lubes before I even left California. And that 75 140, that's the stuff to run. That 75 140 fluid.
70. Okay. Well, when I was match racing I was using 1030.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. That's the stuff to run if you're driving it on the street. Drag racing, you can put 1030 in it. Yes.
Yeah. I was doing that so I could get every single ounce of power I could to the ground.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. So Danny Boyd says, if it's serpentine belt, you might need mods. Definitely need a shorter belt. Okay, so the way the Ford 5-liter guys used to fix this was, if you look at the serpentine system, there's actually multiple different ways you could route a belt, and you could cut one of those things out, or some of those things out, or all of those things out if you wanted, and just run a water pump. It's not too complicated to reroute the belt as long as you have it on the correct sides, right? Like, so if it runs on the back side, like the water pump on the Fords would run on like the back side of the belt. That was the big one. Was the hard one was to try to figure out how to route it to get it to run on that back side. I don't know how the Chryslers is set up, but there is about 20 different ways you could route that belt, and you can come up with a shorter, longer belt, cut some things out. It just takes a little bit of time and looking at where your tensioner is at to see if it's going to apply enough tension, because there's a specific thing on serpentine belt drives called belt wrap, right? And you have to have enough belt wrap on the pulleys for them to actually pull that belt around correctly. If you don't have enough on the crank pulley, you'll find out fast because it'll just eat right through the bottom of the belt. Now, if you get it on the what's that?
I believe the 91 is a multi-belt. I think it's got 3 belts on it. So
are these a serpentine multi-belt?
It's like 3 different belts, but I think it's like 3 different types of serpentine belts. Because I remember doing this in San Diego, and I literally just cut it for my buddy just because it froze and it was making all kinds of noise. And I remember just cutting it, and then we took it off almost 6 months later.
Yeah, well, probably when he went to go smog, right? That used to be the ticket. Is like, like you tune the whole car up, right, just for smog. You gap the plugs like the factory said and set the timing at the exact factory marks. You go do your smog, and then you take it home and you add like 4 degrees of timing to it and open the plugs back up.
Make it run right again.
Yes, that was the big thing. So the only time it was right was when it went through the smog station. Okay, he's talking about his ambassador rear end. Okay, so test the speed shops, thinking that maybe a later AMC rear end might work. Let's see. Tony's Hot Rod Garage. Good evening, everyone. Let's see. Big Belly Racing. Removing the air pump won't affect the computer.
No, it didn't. At least on his car, it didn't change anything. Because all it is, it's just a mechanical pump, essentially. It's just pumping in emissions into it, and it'll self-adjust. And it never put a check engine light on or anything on that car because it was
the Ford EQ4s were essentially OBD1, right? They had a 2 little. One was called a tib and one was called a tab, which was a thermactor intake bypass and thermactor air bypass or something. It turned on and off the smog pump is all it did. And your thermactor was technically just your smog pump. It'll throw a code for those, but it won't be a check engine light. And a check engine light's what will fail you at smog, right? Now, if they plug it in and they pull codes, then you start having problems because it'll come up with those secondary codes that don't necessarily hinder the vehicle's operation. And I'm sure the early Chryslers was the same way. The GMs were the same way. I know that for a fact, that they would still run without the smog pump in there. And the reason for it being, if you're driving down the road and your smog pump locks up and you repair it on the side of the road, you could drive somewhere else to go get a smog pump, technically, right?
Get it fixed, yeah.
That was the big thing. Didn't want to leave you stranded. Let's see. Big Belly Racing says AMC used AMC 20 in their cars.
AMC 20.
I've only seen, well, and I've only looked at high performance stuff from AMC, but most of the time they use Dana's.
That's a new one for me, so that's why I was going to check it out.
Huh. Pete says, I just did a 9.3 build series over on my channel. Well, you might have another one. We'll see. Shane thinks the high point angle is drastically bad.
Well, I just think it's not that it's drastically bad. I think it's going to be right around what a Ford 9 inch is. And for the power that he's going to be running, I don't think he needs that personally. It's just my opinion.
It might be over. Well, I was trying to stay away from the Ford 9 inch because you're looking at 2/10. 2/10, that thing will eat up, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was the reason why I was trying to stay away from that. But, okay, here's the luster for the 9.3 for me. And then there was no luster until I actually just stumbled upon this dumb thing. if I was to actually build this in 1964, me and Mr. Peabody, and we took our Wayback Machine and went and built a 63 Buick Superstocker, it would have had a 9.3 Pontiac rear end in it. That's what GM's ran, either an old or Pontiac. And they ran those in fuel dragsters, and it was the rear end of choice before the 8.75 Chrysler and the 9-inch Ford really appeared on the scene. The 9-inch Ford was around, but the Pontiac was so much stronger. It's actually up there with like the Dana 60.
It's pretty beefy. I'm looking at it. It's massive.
Yeah, and the rumor is that GM killed it off because the rear end was so expensive for them to produce. And that's usually the case when you look at older stuff. It's overbuilt and versus underbuilt, right?
Yeah.
So, Big Block 402 says I may have a choice between my 65 Ambassador or a 63 Mercury Comet, both 4-door, 6-cylinder cars, most parts available for the Comet. 63 Comet starts to get a little bit hard to get stuff for, though, because it's not the
cool
64, 65 Comet, right?
Yeah.
Where they started to come into their own. You still have a majority of like Falcon parts.
Right? Yeah, that's kind of like it's just like the Dodge Dart, the 62, 63, it's kind of like its own little deal before it actually became an A body. So it's the same type of deal, Yeah, parts are impossible to find for them.
Okay, so in test of speech, I'm saying yes, it is a Falcon. So I'm already behind. Let's see. Any more questions there? John Wilburn says there's no AMC rear I would choose to swap into anything. I'd use an 8.25 Mopar or Dana before dealing with the shortcomings of the AMC 20. I didn't even know there was an AMC 20, to be honest.
Honestly, that's the first time I've heard it, because everything I've had that was AMC was like a Jeep, and it had a 44 in it, or was it a Dana 30? I think it had a Dana 30 in the front and a Dana 44 in the rear. That's anything I've ever had. So I didn't even know that there was an AMC 20 personally. Never messed with it.
John Wilburn saying that the AMC was in a lot of Jeeps. It has a big ring gear and a high pinion with removable rear cover. They have C-clips and 2-piece axles. I have never seen one. All the stuff that I have ever heard of is that they were running like Dana's 44s. I'm assuming must have been the performance stuff using the big Dana rear ends.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it right now.
The V8s use the AMC 20, so.
Huh.
Oh, wow. Check this out. Scarlett, the 4-eyed fox, or the 4-eyed Cuda says, AMC 20s have an 8 and 7/8 inch ring gear and use a 29 spline axle shaft. So it is pretty heavy duty, robust rear end.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It looks pretty good. But it looks like it's an axle that has a spline on it that you bolt on.
Here you go, right here. AMC 20 has 2-piece axles. Moser solved that problem. That must be why that they had you remember looking at the AMC, like AMX, Rebel Machine, they always had what I think was like a Chrysler 8.75 rear ends, where you remember the early ones that had like a splined axle shaft end on it?
Exactly.
Okay. I always thought the AMCs were like that.
That's exactly what they are. I'm actually looking at those. I was looking at them as we're talking about them, and it's literally a bolt that goes through, and it's splined onto a hub, and then the drum goes over the hub. So it's like I won't say it's like a floating axle, but it's kind of floating-ish. It looks like. I
imagine they probably shear that cotter key off or whatever the heck that's in there.
Yeah, it doesn't really show like if it's splined or if it's like a cotter key or whatnot, but that would definitely be the weak point right there.
Yeah, you would think so. If not, it just like roll the edge over on that cotter keyway, and then the axle would just spin in there with the cotter. But all right. Well, I did not know that. So there's a piece of information thrown out there tonight that I didn't know, and there's a lot I don't know. I'm going to tell you that right now. There's a lot I don't know, especially when you start talking AMCs. I only knew one AMC guy. We called him Short Shift Terry. And he ran an AMX with a 390 and a 4-speed at the drags, and he would shift it at like $3,500, $4,000, and that's why they called him Short Shift Terry. But
yeah,
he would bracket race the 4-speed, and he would do it just like that. Low RPM, gear changes that were essentially efficient and easy, just like you were driving it down the road. And then you hammer on it once you get into high gear.
Yeah.
So let's see. Danny Boyd says there has to be a C clip holding that axle in, because it, I'm assuming, does not have any bearings on the outside.
It looks like, well, the pictures I'm looking at are just the ones that are online, but it definitely has.
Here you go. Irish Outlaw says they're splined.
Okay, they're splined. Yep.
All right, Colleen Tebow. Shane, any word on RPM heads?
Not yet. I didn't go back to work this week. I worked from home these last 2 days because I didn't want to bring my sickness to work. So I don't have an answer for you. But as soon as I get it, well, I'll be back in the office Monday, so I'll have an answer then for you. She's trying to know when they're going to be back on the market, the RPM heads.
Well, I'm assuming they just haven't produced them in a while.
I don't. I mean, everything's ramping back up again, and I just don't know exactly where things are at. I'm not in that production part of it, but I can find out.
Well, Bicycle Guy 111 says, "Hey guys, I'm in the market for some stainless steel valves for my 186 small block Chevy heads. Should I go with some 100 thousandths over valve stems? Not sure what exactly my cam choice is going to be. 500 horsepower goal."
I would always go with the longer valve stem personally. That way you can get a little bit more lift out of it. And if you're trying to get a 500 horsepower goal, you really don't need much over 550 lift. So I think what's factored on those things, you can get a 480 out of those. So you got 100 thousandths more, and there's your lift that you need to get. I always go with 100 thousandths bigger, so that way you have to cut the pockets nearly as deep, and make sure that you're going to put some screw and studs into it. I mean, at the minimum, but yeah, I definitely would go 100 thousandths over.
Well, I'm kind of wondering, is he talking 100 thousandths longer or 100 thousandths larger in diameter?
I'm assuming that he's talking about longer.
Okay, or maybe because I was thinking diameter.
Well, because you have 202, and I think the other one is like 192.
It can't be in diameter. 100 thousandths is a lot for diameter. When you're talking oversized valve stems, you're talking like 1,000, maybe 2.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
so it would have to be 100 thousandths longer.
Yeah, so that's what I'm assuming he's talking about. So yeah, that's definitely that's how I would go. Definitely.
Yeah, that was pretty boneheaded of me.
Yeah, shit happens, right?
Oh, yeah. All right. So, Tom Brown, hey, guys. Hope you all had a great Christmas. My question tonight is there any advantage to using a crank-mounted supercharger opposed to a belt-driven?
Yes, no slip. No slip.
He's talking geared, right?
No, it's actually bolts straight to the crankshaft.
Oh, you're talking like
big
street outlaw stuff.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff that still drive on the street too that are well.
Oh, do they have like basic street applications for that?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to move your. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to move your radiator and a bunch of other stuff because it goes right on the front. But the advantage is that you don't have a belt, you don't have anything to brake, and it's literally driven right off the crankshaft. So, and then you basically just change gears at that point as far as how you're going to spool it. I've seen a lot of this stuff on the dyno, and the belt slip is a real problem. I mean, you can get a cogged belt, but then you're going to lose a little bit of power just from moving the belt. You're going to lose less when it's bolted around to the crankshaft.
That's what I was actually going to say. That's the downfall of the belt-driven supercharger is belt slip, right? If you go back and look at the evolution of that whole thing, when it first started off with a Paxton supercharger, like on your Y block 292s and 312s, it literally had a V belt, right? And then, but it was only making 4 to 8 pounds of boost. And then when you start looking at the Pro 5.0 days is where it really started taking off in like say the late 90s, early 2000s with the 5-liter guys. And they were running like VS1s and I think the VSYs or something. They have all these crazy superchargers. But the pitch on that supercharger was so high that when you start winding it up, it starts smoking the belt instead of spinning that supercharger because it would take so much horsepower to turn that thing. At full cog, because you got to remember it's not running 1-to-1 off of the crank, right? It's literally overdriven.
Yeah.
right? So it's like 3-to-1 or 2-to-1. When you get it really high up there in RPM, they start to slip really bad. And if you notice, what is it? The factory stock class where they were running the supercharged like Challengers and Camaros and all that stuff, they had like this weird looking green belt. And the weird looking green belt was in my opinion, the ultimate evolution of those things. Because then when they started, there was a V belt, then it went to a 6-rib belt, serpentine 6-rib, and then it went to a 10-rib serpentine, and then it went to 12-rib green belt, and the green belt was like impregnated with something that was supposed to eliminate that belt slippage, and it still doesn't work.
No, it'll smoke it. I have one of the green belts on my Cummins, because it has the typical Cummins, when you shut it off, it has that squeak, and it didn't cure that at all. So yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it didn't cure that, so it still squeaks.
Huh? I mean, that's because the engine stops instantly, though, isn't it?
Pretty well, yeah. Who knows? It just squeaks, and then I have one of the fans that it's overdriven as far as the fan goes. So you can get the fans that are like heavy duty or extra heavy duty. Since it's an HD, so what it will do is it will squeal, and it makes this terrible squealing noise when it's cold, and it's just the belt slipping. It just sucks.
Yeah, well, you fix one problem, and that's like, having something that's capable to tow, and you got to deal with all the problems of it being capable to tow, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the good thing is you're not towing around with like a 360. They just don't have enough beans to do what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So Bicycle Guy says yes, they're 202 160 valves and his 187 heads. So
yeah.
Right now, we just got a lot of people greeting each other. Bill McKyska has sent a super chat over.
Nice.
Thanks, Bill. When it comes to crank-driven superchargers, just look at World War II aircraft engines. Very effective.
Yep. And it's funny that you say that, because that's actually where I got a lot of my engine knowledge. I was really into World War II aircrafts, P-51 Mustangs, some of the Stukas, a lot of the different types of German engines, the Merlins, and the Corsairs. I really enjoy a lot of stuff. So yes, this is exactly where they came from, was all this stuff. Yes.
Well, man, you grew up in the area where all that stuff was perfected and built. That's what made Southern California such a hotbed for hot rodding, because all of those skills that wouldn't really work anywhere else but the I guess you would call it military aircraft community, ended up in the civilian sector because they had so many people building them, and then they had no way to use them skills. So your aircraft 10 became your dragster body, and nitromethane started flowing through everyone's veins.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Poway, California, and right up from where I was at was Ramona. And one of my best friends, his dad did rebuild planes. They would go through a service. And so I used to go up there on summers, and I would work for him, and I would just do little things on the shop, cleaning it up, whatever he paid me. Well, one time we've been working on this F4FU Corsair, and it was a 2-seater. And so I got to get up inside of it and get inside that thing. And when they fired it up, that big radial engine, and I couldn't imagine sitting in that. I mean, you see it from the ground, it's one thing, but to be in that plane when that thing fires up and that big radial engine is actually firing up, and it's idling, and then they run it up to, the red line for, almost 2 or 3 minutes, to kind of cycle it in. Everything's shaking inside that plane. It is the most amazing thing ever. Like those guys were just in World War II. Those guys were true men. That was amazing. So that was that thing changed my life, is sitting in that plane.
I've never even seen one up close. But thank you very much, Bill, for the $5 super chat. And you know what? Now you are on Shane's best friend list.
Yeah.
So Professor P loves his World War II aircraft. Apparently, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I love them all.
All right, Tista Speed Shop says, Dallas, what do you think the longevity of your valve guide repair would be for a street car? I've actually had a lot of questions about that this week after I made that video. and apparently was one of the last few people in the world that didn't know about knurling guides. But okay, so the big one is a lot of people are saying that stuff is junk. Put bronze guides in it. And first off, I'll let you know where I was at. I had a set of cylinder heads that had 15 good guides in it, and I felt stupid drilling 15 good guides out to put bronze guides in that would cost 3-4 times as much as what I had for a budget. And but this knurling one guide really helped out a lot, right? Because it did it will increase the longevity of it, and I probably, let's say, I might get 30 to 40,000 miles more out of it. To me, it just seemed kind of dumb to drill out 15 good guides.
Yeah,
it was like, hey, if we can get, let's say, if I can get 60,000 miles more out of the motor, that'd be fantastic. This one's going to be the turbocharged 350 Buick. I doubt it will probably end up in anything. But Shane and I had a line on something this week. Okay, and I'll give you the idea. All right, and it'll still end up in something cool, but it's not going to end up in this one. Okay, because obviously no one's returned any phone calls and no one's commented on it. So I didn't score anything. I found a 1990 Corvette that had the motor and tranny taken out. And I thought, there is nothing more sacrilegious than putting this freaking turbocharged Buick in a vet. How many people can I piss off with this?
Everyone.
But it's all good piss off, right? Because one, it's going to be way faster than that vet ever was. And then two, the vet was the sole reason that the turbo V6 Buick ended as a program in General Motors, was because that Grand National was outselling the vet 2 to 3 to 1.
It was faster too.
And that was the big one. If General Motors really would have seen the light, and if they really wanted to go ahead and charge ahead with their corporate engine program, like that, what they were telling everybody but Chevrolet, they probably would have ruled the world if they would have put that damn turbo V6 Buick in the vet. There probably wouldn't have been an LT1 version engine. There probably would have been an LS, and it may have come sooner after they did that. I don't know, but I've talked with Shane about this on the phone. I talked with John Wilbert about this on the phone, and Chris Cox at Fab Race Mod Repeat. That would have been the smart move on GM's part. Everybody comes to the same conclusion. Like, why did that engine just not end up in the vet? It was 250 pounds lighter than the vet engine and made the same amount of power. Yeah,
they would have had a true 50-50 weight on that one then at that time, because that engine set so far back. The V6 would have just been insane.
And they could have ditched the 700 R4, and I think that's probably the hang-up on it, was it had a BOP bell housing. And the only transmission they would have had, 204R. The vet, the only thing it was designed for, 700 R4. So who knows? I know you can use the same shifter. It would have taken an entirely different cross member, though, to make it happen. So,
well, you just think of it, it would be the same one as like a turbo 350 at the same time. So if you didn't get the 700 R4, because the 200, it goes in the same place as the turbo 350.
Right. Yeah. It would have been badass, though, to put that turbocharged 350 Buick in a vet. Could you imagine if I just opened the hood at like a regular car show? People would have been, what the hell is that?
I made it better.
Is that a Ford? All right. So Hippie Miller says that 87 300 or EFI 306 cylinder running bad rich with a crazy miss every now and then. Any ideas? Okay.
I've done this once before. It was something super simple. It was a stuck thermostat, and it was just running cold. It wasn't running hot enough, and it was always staying. It was staying basically in choke mode. In choke mode, yeah, exactly. It never got hot enough. And the what were those things? Ford always had those. Like there was the Ford mystery part. Those ported vacuum switches. They had the blue one and the yellow ones, and it would never turn on. It would never turn that thing on. So that way it just would stay cold. That's actually what happened to my buddies.
Well, and that's a good call because and he's saying it misses every now and then. It's probably because it's so damn rich that the engine just is not going to run right. The EFI is reading essentially. Well, no, that can't be it, Shane. Well, it might be actually. Okay, so the O2 will have no play in it because if the thermostat's stuck, or the other thing is the engine coolant temperature sensor is bad.
Oh,
right?
that too, yeah.
Those will generally throw a code, but see, they're all based on resistance. So if it's reading a resistance, so it's within scale, and it's just telling the computer that it's cold, it'll do the same thing as the thermostat being stuck. And that might actually be worse than what Shane's saying, because when the thermostat's stuck, it technically is cold, and it'll run on that fuel. But if that engine coolant temperature sensor is bad, the engine will technically warm up, but that sensor is always telling it it's cold. So it's just dumping tons of fuel in it and just fattening it up. And it's not going to want it because the engine is warm. That would be the first place I would start. Is I would probably buy a thermostat. I would probably buy a thermostat and put it in there and see if it fixes the problem. If not, I would then step up to the engine coolant temperature sensor, replace that, and if that does not work, the next place I would go would probably be an O2 sensor.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. After that, I'd go O2 sensor. Because if it's been running like fat, everything downhill is going to be bad. Your plugs, O2
It's going to need an O2 sensor when you fix it anyway.
Yes,
I'll guarantee it. Yep. Let's see here. Danny Boyd said he loves them 300s. Me too. There was a picture I posted on the AHRA Facebook page like not too long ago, which was it said when the last LS engine dies, a 300 will tow it to the junkyard. Right.
Right.
And but Test is right there with me with that vet. They want me to do the vet.
I'm telling you, what did I say? I said,
you were like, that's the most awesome idea I've heard this week.
I was like, you go to a car show, you put on your New Balances, you put on your jean shorts, your fanny pack, and Buick's Rule the World, t-shirt. That would be the best thing ever. Be awesome.
Well, so Mopar Man 1978 says Corvettes don't impress me. The only decent body style was the one that Schwarzenegger drove in the movie True Lies. So the 80s vets are truly underappreciated. Okay, the 82 to 92, I think. No, later than that. 82 to 97, maybe 96, somewhere around there. That one is so underappreciated. The engineering behind that one is so awesome. It has aluminum upper and lower control arms on it, right, in the front suspension. You open the hood up, and once you open the hood, because it opens all as one piece, the front suspension looks like a freaking Formula One car almost.
Yeah.
From that same generation, right, that same era. It is so well thought out. I'm not a vet fan by any means because they're always attached to the small block Chevrolet, and I never was a small block Chevrolet fan. I hated them, to tell you the truth, because here's where the reason why I dislike the small block Chevrolet. I would work so hard on my junkyard Buick stuff and go to the track, and you'd run a number, and it would be pretty impressive compared to what you had done before. And then here is some dude shows up and drops a set of cylinder heads that he paid $900 for, that they made parts for his car, and he put them on there, and with no effort, no work, no ingenuity, no thinking outside the box, no common knowledge of automotive history or how things work, the car would outrun mine any day of the week. And that's the thing I always hated about them. We used to say my mom could build a 9-second small block Chevrolet in a sandbox, and it would still run 9s, right? And never building an engine, that's what you could do. It didn't take any thinking outside the box or know-how. That's the thing I always hated about them.
Me too. And that's why I was always into the Mopars. Where I was at, there was a lot of Chevys. There was actually a lot of Mopars in where I lived in Southern California, but it's for that same reason, is that you didn't really have, at that time, you had W2 heads and you had factory heads for your small block Mopar. So it was like, you had to figure out, how am I going to make this go faster besides doing a big block? Because you could throw a big block in anything at that time.
Hippie Miller saying the fuel pressure on that 300 is 42 while running. I think you might have a vacuum leak, bud. Because I'm assuming you're reading that with the vacuum line disconnected. If you are, that's actually kind of fine. It should be 39, but 42 is probably well within Ford spec. Now, if you have the vacuum line hooked up and it's 42, you got a vacuum leak somewhere, because that's telling me there's no vacuum going to that fuel pressure regulator at all. Because if it's, let's say you're in your driveway and that vacuum line's hooked up and it's started up and running, it should be pulling somewhere between 18 and 20 inches of vacuum, and that thing should be about 24, 25 pounds of fuel pressure. Okay. Moperman 1978 says he always buys Slant brand thermostats. I am so hard just to find that stuff anymore. It's just difficult for me to find quality thermostats. No one carries them. They all carry the cheapy Chinese and offshore stuff.
Rock Auto, I've actually started using a lot of Rock Auto stuff, and they carry a really good line of some of the more expensive thermostats. I was having a problem with my diesel truck. If I would go over 75 miles an hour, it would overheat. It would just start, creep over the 200 mark and just start creeping. And literally it was buying a thermostat for it. That was like the Mopar part number thermostat. And I put it in there, and now it runs just 190 degrees the whole time, doing nothing else but changing the thermostat. That's all it was.
All right. So Fab Race Mod Repeat agrees. ECT and O2 sensor. But I would start with that thermostat. It's probably going to be your cheapest one. Lowest hanging fruit, right?
Absolutely.
And if it's not throwing a check engine light, it's probably something mechanical. Generally, anything attached to the EFI system will throw a check engine light somehow.
Hey, could John? We got two. We got porn in our chats. Got two of them.
Oh, John's getting them. We just see him still. It doesn't eliminate him here for us.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you, John.
Okay, so Tom Brown, what's your guys' take on the new inline six from Dodge is supposed to replace the Hemi? Also, have you seen the new concept for cylinder LS?
I haven't even looked at the new concept.
That must be like 6-cylinder LS or 5-cylinder LS or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at the new inline Dodge at all engine. I haven't even looked at it. I'm just once they get away from Hemi, that's it for me. I'm done with those.
Yeah, they're not good looking, Danny Boy. The C44 Corvettes are not good looking. They look like a shoe, in my opinion. But a 2,600-pound Buick, there was never one made. So I'd love to see how it would run.
Yeah.
Let's see. Dallas, you shouldn't blame the engine. You should blame the guys that take the easy way out. Yeah, that's probably a very truthful statement. I just looked at Chevrolet Small Block was the first. I don't know what you would call it.
Tuner engine?
Is there such thing as an off-the-shelf parts guy, like somebody that didn't know anything that left, Vic Edelbrock to create their performance? I don't know what you would call it. It's you buy parts off the shelf, you bolt them on your stuff. It's a bolt-on guy.
Yeah, that's what I call a tuner, because they're really just bolty people. They never really tuned anything. They just bought the latest greatest part.
My heads were worth 25 horsepower. My intake was worth 30, and my nitrous is a 150. So I'm looking at about 250 extra horsepower.
I will never forget this guy. He came up to me and he was going to race me, and he goes, "I've got Knowledge wires, and I've got NGK plugs, and I got this and that." And I was like, "Oh, so you gave it a tune-up? Okay, great, perfect. We're ready to race then."
Yeah. Let's see here. We'll scroll down. I'm going to have to catch up because you guys are blowing me away. Let's see. Fab Race Mod repeats saying that the fuel pressure diaphragm can harden in the Fords. I have not seen that, but I bet you ones with a lot of miles on them actually are where you see it at. And I usually change them. Like I do so many miles on the white Ford truck that I routinely change the fuel pressure regulator, and every year I put new plugs and wires on it and a cap and rotor. I don't even fool in a fuel filter. I don't even fool around. I don't care if it's still working, or I don't care if it's, hey, that was just last year. Every year I do that because I don't want the sucker to break down. Oh, okay. Adam Culbertson is saying they're coming out with a 4-cylinder LS.
Oh, there's a guy. There was a people who made one of those. It's an aftermarket one, but it was at PRI.
Actually, isn't it a Mercury Marine outboard motor, or it's a Mercury Marine inboard motor? Actually, 4-cylinder LS.
Yeah, there was a guy who it was at PRI, and I was checking it out. It's literally an LS head that's bolted onto a 4-cylinder engine, and it makes like 350 or 400 horsepower or something like that out of a.
Oh, it's killer for only 4 cylinders.
Yeah, it's bitching. I can't remember
here's something I learned today about LS engines. You remember I keep saying they're a copy of the Buick V8, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that the first few years of the 4.8 and the 5.3 liter, the bore on them was 3.78 inches, and it used a wrist pin diameter of 0.940, which was the Buick wrist pin diameter? That stuff is like, it's almost, they can't even, you can't even dispute it. So it just, all right.
I see it as a Windsor, really. When I look at an old school Ford Windsor style, or a 302, I see a lot of LS in it, except for some of the oiling. But as far as the head design, how the heads are port, just a lot of the different things on it. Yeah, besides the skirted block, obviously, that they took from.
Yeah, it's. We need to do that comparison, because the 300 Buick block next to like a 302 Ford, you would swear they're the same engine.
Wow.
I'm telling you. It's, and the sad part, and Chris Cox keeps telling me from Fab Race Mod Repeat, keeps telling me that the same guy designed them all, and that's what you're looking at. And it's
it makes sense. Yeah.
All right. Let me catch up. Jeez, holy cow! How are we running through so many chats really quick? But I saw one here. One-Eyed Cat says people are slacking on hitting the like button. Well, go down there and hit that like button for us. We'll continue doing these whether you like us or not, but we prefer that you do like us. I guess for some plug stuff, I spent the whole week, the first part of this week, putting new merch and updating the merch on the AHRA eBay page. So I even put the coveted No Name Nationals participant decals up there for sale at a bogus price for the 2022 No Name Nationals participant decals. Buy one, get one free. So I clean them out. I bought a whole bunch of them, and nobody even knew I had them. And it was probably because I wasn't out promoting them. I was busy trying to keep the event going, since I had to fill in for meth and head. And so that's, I guess that's the name of the game. Let's see.
Kurt Tank's got one down there. Oh, yeah.
Oh. Okay. Kurt Tank says, for a marine application, Chrysler 392 Hemi is aeromotive electric fuel pump the gold standard.
I like aeromotive personally. I've been burning them a lot, but you're not really telling me which pump it is, because aeromotive is probably going to be complete overkill for what you're going to be running in this, because it's a marine application, and for 780 CFM, for something like that, you really could just go down and just get really any type of you can get one of those old school Carter pumps. That's actually where I would go. You remember those?
You're talking about the electric, right?
Yeah.
The one that makes the ticking noise.
No. This actually spins, and it bolts on, and it comes with a little bolt thing on it, and you can get a Fram filter right next to it. That's actually the very first fuel pump that I had. But yeah, they spin. They don't tick. It's a Carter. Let me see here. I'll tell you just a second.
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret.
Yep.
that everybody probably might not even know. Buicks pretty much primarily came with mechanical fuel pumps, and including the Stage 1 had its own mechanical fuel pump that was essentially a big block Chevrolet pump with a Buick arm on it. But in the 71 through like 73 Riviera, they were factory electric pumps, and you could buy those like fairly cheap. They're super cheap.
This part number here is a Carter part number. It is a P as in Paul 4070. They're like $76, and it comes with a bracket, rubber insulators, and then an L bracket, and then it spins, and it's got quarter-inch MPT in and out, and it regulates between 4 and 8 psi, and it's 50 gallons per hour free flow. That would be all the pump you need. I ran one of those. I had one of those for my fuel, for my carburetor, and I ran one of those for my nitro system. So they work great, and you could pretty much get them at any part store anywhere.
Sorry, I'm just texting Mr. Wilburn. Hey, are you? Because I'm seeing porn guys again.
Oh yeah, but yeah, that's the fuel pump that I would run for your Hemi. They work really good, and they're cheap. They're $76, and I have something that's similar to this on my diesel truck as a lift pump. I got rid of the lift pump that's on it, but I'm running something just like that, and I put it on there in 2007, and then the exact same one's on there still to this day. So it runs just fine.
I figured the only thing that those things are not a boat engine under heavy load all the time, right? I mean, they run them around at like $4 or $5 grand, but they're not loaded. You know what I mean? Oh, I guess it depending on how big the boat is. I guess it's big.
But they're under a percentage of load more than a car. So like a car, you're going to run it like say 50 horsepower. On a boat, when you're up on plane, you're going to be at maybe about 100 to 150.
Right. Well, it is. You are using a lot more power on the boat because that screw is biting a lot more water than what it would take for you to move your car forward, right?
Yeah.
Which is just rolling. But what I was getting at is the load of the boat. I guess I don't know. I would see that they're only. Where they're under heavy load is when you just mat them from standstill, right? Would be the heavy load.
Get them up on plane, yeah.
Right. Once they come up on plane, it may take 100 horse to keep them. I have no idea. I know it can't be as light as a car because it's just literally just rolling down the road, and it's only fighting the wind. And the boat, if you look at how bad water, like hydrodynamics is compared to aerodynamics. Oh my God, the friction ratio has got to be staggeringly high, like 100 times what it is for air.
Yeah, and it gets worse the faster you go. It's an exponential curve.
That is true. So maybe that's the case because a boat, you never really just start tooling around unless you're in the marina, right? Like as soon as you get out of the marina, you're like, oh, I'm to the breakwater. Wah! 4,500, $5 grand all day long until you get to the spot where you're going to be at.
Right.
Yeah. But so maybe they are under a little more load. I do know that most of them came with steel cranks and a lot of good stuff in them. If you can ever find, if you're building a cheap hot rod and you find a boat motor for sale, that's generally you're going to buy some of the best parts that you could get with that factory engine. A lot of them were steel crank forged rod pieces. Let's see here. We're still getting spammed.
Yeah, we are.
Where's the hammer of John Wilburn? Where's the John Wilburn hammer? Let's see. Scarlett, the four-eyed Cuda says, put that four-cylinder 3.6 in an Opal GT. Matter of fact, there was a ton of Opal GTs and Opal products at PRI this year, probably more than I've seen anywhere else.
Ever.
I was floored at how many. There was a Cadet and two GTs, and then was that it? There was an Opal Manta, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't there a Manta?
Yeah, when was the last time you saw one of those?
Oh man, easily like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of them around, but there was an Opal Manta there. It had a big block Chevrolet in it, but let's see, the other ones had like, I want to say the GTs were LS powered, right?
Yes, they were. Yeah. You getting spam still?
Kind of, but Wilburn says he's all over it, so
Good.
maybe that's what needs to happen. Let's see, Big Block 402. We just sold an Opal GT here and have another sitting in the yard for like $100. Dude, where were you when I was looking for one of these like a year ago? I was looking all over for one of these to put a 215 Buick and a T5 at. And I thought it would be really cool because they look like a Corvette. Why not have a small V8 in it? It would be cool.
Did you know, speaking of that, I always wanted to get a cheetah. You know, remember the old cheetahs?
Yeah. That's a kit part, isn't it?
I always wanted to, like, I saw one time and I was like, man, that thing looks so cool. I always wanted a cheetah. Just whenever I see an Opal, for some reason my mind goes to a cheetah. So,
I like the Cadet. The Cadet's the one that I really like. That's the small one that looks kind of like a car that was used for gassers in like 67, 68.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they came out with that GT, those are the ones that took over the gas classes. Oh, so here John Wilburn's giving us the skinny on the porn spam. You may not be seeing it on YouTube, but we're getting it all over here on StreamYard. And it's John says the spam doesn't always show on YouTube. There's an auto filter for some of the amateurs. Even when I do axe it on YouTube side, you'll still see it at StreamYard. So that's what's going on there, Shane. That's why we're seeing Mr. Porn Site. Now, if Mr. Porn Site was to smash that like button and send us maybe a super chat, I might read his stuff. But
right.
Let's see. What is going on?
I don't know. Keep hearing it clicking.
Yeah, I think somebody's buying on my eBay. The eBay's updated their app now. It's all jacked up. So I didn't tell you the greatest part. People were buying, and thank you very much for those supporters that buy the AHRA merch on the eBay page, because that's how we literally put on events. Is that money? There was a snafu. See, eBay updated all their stuff. Well, when they did that, it somehow did not jive with my inbox on my phone. And if I don't get notifications on my phone that something's sold on eBay, it'll just sit there on eBay until I finally get a notification, right? Well, one day I was up, checked the computer, and I had like 20 emails, and one of them was like, hey, you going to send the stuff or what? And I'm like, what stuff? And I look, and it's like, holy cow, I got freaking 8 orders on here, and I don't have a notification on eBay. Well, I ended up having to drop the app, upload a new app, and now everything starts working the way it's supposed to. But so there was some folks that were behind. But what I did do, just to make things right, was I paid for the expedited shipping directly to your house within like 2 days, so that you got the stuff. So I appreciate your orders. So if you're one of those people, I'm sorry if that happened to you. But everything's straightened out now.
Yeah.
There is one guy that I'm like, hey, man, thanks so much for sending me this email. I would have never known. All right. They're just chatting about stuff. Oh, and Jason said he ordered some stickers. Well, thanks, Jason. Yeah, I'll get them out to you probably tomorrow morning. Oh, and Colleen as well. Well, no problem. I don't have any problems with that. Go ahead, ring it up. You can hear how many times the cash register rings here on the app, because I didn't know it did that until tonight. So apparently that's what it does.
That's funny.
And here's John Wilbur. Put the link to the eBay page. So that way you can get over there and you can buy those updated new pieces of merch. I still have some things being manufactured. One of them being a poster from the No Name Nationals. So if you wanted that big blown up picture, it's coming. So yeah, the overhead.
Put you on mute so you didn't hear that.
Yeah, dude, we heard that like all the way down past your larynx
Wow.
into like your bronchial tubes. We heard it.
Wow.
Yeah. I think you got some cilia on your microphone, as they say.
Oh, I went that way.
Oh.
I have this just in case.
All right. Well, hey, we're in an hour. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about for hardcore tech?
I didn't today. Honestly, I barely made it to the thing today, but I didn't have anything for this.
You've been sleeping, man. You need to sleep some.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what. Here's something I am going to throw out. It's not hardcore tech, but Friday at I don't remember what it is. I think it's 7:00 Central, 8:00 Eastern. John Wilburn and I will be chatting. Maybe it's 8:00 my time. I don't know. Friday evening. John and I will be chatting about the 2023 No Name Nationals. We've got it all ironed out. There's going to be a date on. Well, there's going to be a number on the orange sheet of paper. We have. I'd say we're probably about 75% done with getting the baseline stuff together. Right. There will be a few more things that we got to get ironed out, like what kind of trophies are we going to do this year? How are we going to do them? That'll come much later when we get later in the year. But right now, we've already got a majority of the stuff put together, and we're going to be releasing it all on Friday to let everybody know that, hey, this is what's happening this year for No Name Nationals. Bring your car, get ready to have some fun. We're planning on a lot of the things being similar to last year, but there will be some improvements that I don't know about.
Improvements are good.
Yeah, improvements.
But it's pretty good, so it's hard to improve on something that was already good. So
yeah, well, we're just refining what we have. You know, I'm sure
you can talk about it Friday. You don't tell me right now.
Don Julio's first attempt at tequila probably wasn't spot on, but over the years he refined it and had something really killer. Yeah. So that's what we're shooting for. We don't want to change it too much. Let's see. Colin Tebow says, how much are the large No Name Nationals 2 to 3 foot? I saw one at the event. Oh, are you talking about like these things? I got quite a few of these.
No, she says 2 to 3 foot. Like
2 to 3 feet?
Yeah.
I don't think I saw one of those. That had to be custom made probably for somebody.
Yeah.
John says that's a one-off. I could price you for it if you'd like. Colleen, get ready. So I hope you're sitting down because I've bought one-off custom decals for people that requested them before, and you're talking like some serious dollars for a one-off.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jason's Garage says they have a trophy they want to donate for the No Name Nationals 2023. That's cool. Nice. We can do that, and you can probably pick the criteria of what you want to give away. We ended up doing that on the spot at No Name Nationals 2022. So, let's see. Here's an interesting question. Hopefully, you've brushed up on your brake systems. Bill McCaskey says, in a vehicle equipped with ABS, is it odd to all of a sudden have the brakes go soft and spongy with no idiot light and code thrown?
I've actually had this. My speed sensor that was in my axle went out, and it got spongy and really soft. And on some of these, it has to do a relearn on the ABS system. You have to there's a cycle that you have to go through where you hit the brakes, you run it through a key on, key off type deal. Each one's got to have a different deal, and it will automatically bleed the ABS and then get it pumped up. So yes, I've actually had this problem before, and dealt with it in my Dodge truck. So yes,
my 90s Ford only has rear ABS, and I've never had a problem like this at all. But I do know that when I put a new ABS solenoid in it, or not solenoid, I don't know what you would even call it. It's ABS something, whatever pulsates the brakes, right? When I put a new one of those in, I couldn't get a pedal at all without bleeding that thing first. It would not give me a rear pedal, not even a little bit. And so I can imagine it would affect, and it was only rear ABS. I can imagine it would affect the feel of the brakes pretty easily, especially if how it bypasses fluid, because it literally just has to have a bypass circuit, and then there's a solenoid in between that pulsates, right?
Yeah.
Based on your speed, because it's just taking a reading off the speed sensor, and then it just pulsates that fast.
Yeah. But that actually there is a thing that has to on the basically the module or the actuator, that's actually all the lines come from the master cylinder into that, and then it goes out and branches out. That thing has to be what do they call it? I'm gonna call it bucking it in, but it has to be read. Like the computer has to know where it's at. It has to cycle it back and forth, and you're putting it in drive, you're putting it in neutral, and it has to what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, it cycles it at the beginning, right? When you start the car up, it generally goes through that initial pre-initialization cycle, and it'll pulsate the brake as you started.
Yes, but the thing though is that sometimes when they go soft, that sometimes it has to, not just that cycle, but it has to go through a whole complete reset.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all, because to tell you the truth, what it sounds like is that the pulsating solenoid that's in there that operates the brakes for the ABS side of the brakes, if that thing is not all the way fully seated, you won't have any real brake pressure.
That's right. Yeah.
Because it's just bleeding it back through the cycle or through the system. I guess it's a piston. When that piston is in, the hydraulic piston is moved in the slot where it's supposed to be pulsating. Like say it's dirty and it's got something behind it, it can't seat all the way in. It's going to be pushing fluid through that whole system.
Yeah.
It'll just be cycling through.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay. Well, Chris Cox from Fabrice Mod Repeats says, Shane, do you know about sizing the intake plenum?
Yes, I do. I know a lot about this, more than I want to talk about on this here, because I'm actually working a lot with this. This is something he has my. I think I have his.
He has your email.
Yeah, and he has my phone number too. So just call me. I'll be home I go back to work Monday. You can call me up and you can ask me whatever you like. But that's a question that goes really deep, and I would lose a lot of people here.
Well, John Wilburn says Friday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern on my channel. Second annual AHRA No Name Nationals will be announced. So there you go. That's it. So I'll be on there with John. We'll be talking about what's planned and how it's going to work, and that's that, I guess.
Yeah.
So we're announcing it, and registration's going to open immediately. So.
Oh, speaking of that, I do have one question. Is it going to still stay 500, or is it going to go up from that, the count, or is that something you're going to answer on Friday?
That's something that we're going to answer on Friday, and I don't have the privy to know that answer.
Good enough. I understand.
Yeah. Originally, the number 500 was not like we didn't pull out of our butt. That was right. Yeah, that was the number that YouTube recognized you as being a content creator, right? But what we found was last year, toward the very end of the whole thing, like let's say the beginning of September or late August, there was a participant that was gaming the system and manipulating their views and subs by stealing other people's content. Oh. And so we were, I don't know what John has come up with. We had discussed this a couple of times, but we'll answer that on Friday.
Okay, good.
All right, so Dean Stevenson, glad you're still here. I was unfaithfully waiting elsewhere while I was buying a laptop computer with my laptop wife. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Jason's Garage says the GM trucks have an issue with rust under the ABS sensor causing low speed engagement due to too much clearance from sensor to tone ring. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, the era of vehicles that I have, none of them have ABS, like full blown ABS. I got just a rear ABS on the Ford, and that's about the extent of it. The T-Bird could have had ABS if it was a Thunderbird Turbo Coupe, but since it's just a regular Thunderbird Sport, no, it didn't have it. But I did steal a lot of parts from Lincoln Mark 7s that had ABS on them, and I seen them, the reluctor ring and all that stuff on the Lincoln, but never messed with it.
Yeah. Hey, go down to LC2 Kid. He's got a question right there.
Okay, it must be way behind or something.
No, it's only 5 down from that one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, LC2 Kid. Sup, guys? Does Billy Godbold still work for Comp Elbrock?
He's a consultant. He actually has, I forget his company. I think it's Godbold, I believe, is his consulting company. He still works for us in a way. So he's basically a consultant for us. So there's your answer on that one. But technically, he's not employed by us, but Elbrock still does pay him, and he's a hell of a guy. So John and Clint got to meet Billy. It was funny. I introduced him, and they're like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Well, that's like a walking, living legend right there." So just later on, you'll figure out who he is.
Mexican Spec says that he still doesn't have 500. I'm at 198. I'm 198 shy. Well, I tell you what, you get hot on it now, start making some videos, and you're going to have probably well more than 500 by the time the thing starts. We've been telling everybody, shoot for 500. That's what it was last year, so it won't be any worse than that. Or easier than that, I guess. John says Professor P will be anywhere between 500 and 5,000.
I figured that'd be the answer, somewhere in that range. Yeah.
Yes, Danny Boyd, cheating to get into a race. Yes, 100%. Yes, and it's I know what you're thinking, and I thought the same thing too. Like, what in the hell? But yes.
So he was just straight up plagiarizing. I didn't know anything about this first time I heard
it. Was taking it directly from other people's lives and the videos and all that stuff, and then making it their own.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, Mexican Spec says I watched the accident channels, and it looks like ABS causes a lot of accidents.
Yeah, I actually have mine in my truck unplugged for that very reason, because I learned how to drive without it. So I'm scared of it personally, and drive-by-wire too. That's another thing I'm scared of also.
So John Wilburn says ABS system equals ABS system.
That's good. I never thought that's a good one.
Well, here's how I ended up. I recently just had a run-in with ABS on the Ford. I got to test it out for literally the first time. And it ran into a 2021 RAV4 into the back of it, right? Yay me. And so the old Ford, it's going to live to fight another day. That RAV4 is a little worse for wear. But it did the ABS deal on me, where I slammed on the brakes and the ABS started hammering away, and I just ended up dropping it into first and dumping the clutch to get the damn thing to try to stop it. Because I with it pulsating the pedal, it's not going to slam. It's not going to stop fast. It's going to just not lock the brakes up.
Yeah,
that's really it. But the only way I got it to lock the brakes up was I threw it in first and dumped the clutch. And I tell you what, engine braking when you got a 7-to-1 first gear, it happens quick.
Yeah, you'll do it.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay. Mexican Spec says I can't go to the race anyway. I'm doing more videos of Mexican cars now. Okay, well, if you can't make it, no big deal. Then you don't have to worry about the sub requirement.
Yeah.
Let's see. LC2 Kid, was there ever a cross-flow slant 6 head made either aftermarket or prototype from Mopar?
Now, if Yeah, that's actually a good question. You can go and search a few photos. Now, there's a guy who's got a Hemi head, supposedly, for one, and you can see it. But other than that, that's all I've really seen out there. There's a few people doing them, but the problem is that you're going to have the way the engine slants onto that side. You're going to have a couple issues. One, the push rods. Push rods all run on that side, obviously, but then you're going to be running, and that's where your spark plugs are. So you got to move the spark plugs. Also, the other problem is going to be the exhaust. Where's it going to go? Because that engine lays over almost onto that fender well. So there's a few people making. There's actually a guy right now, one of my Slant 6 clubs, who's making a billet aluminum one right now, Slant 6 head. But it's still going to be a standard type of flow, just because there's so much room when you do it that way to do whatever intake you want for it. And that also helps too with the getting the exhaust out, because there's a lot of room on that side. But once you get onto the passenger side, there's just really no room to move the exhaust out that way. You would have to do so much. You couldn't put it in the neighbor.
Like, you remember the fuel injected 300 Fords where they had the intake manifold that went over the intake or the valve cover?
Yeah,
that would be about the only way you could do something. But then the angle on it would just be like literally, well, it'd be a 180-degree turn.
Yeah, so it's worthless.
It's defeating the purpose of it.
It's worthless, yeah. And the problem too is that the spark plugs, where the spark plugs are located, they go right between two push rods. So there's really no room. So it would come in between two push rods, and then have to do this dog leg to get in there. And you would also defeat the purpose right there also. And that intake port runner would be huge, because you have all that room from the one side of the head to the other because that's where all the push rod open hole is at. So I don't know. I mean, you're not really going to gain much out of a Slant 6 just because of the stroke on the damn thing. You can get a little bit more head flow out of it, but you're not going to really RPM those things and for them to live any great deal of time. So yeah, it is what it is. Just put a turbo on them and just be happy with 350, 400 horse and call it good.
Danny Boyd says ABS is for plastics. Mexican Spec says ABS is for you to maintain control when you're braking and turning. In a straight line, it doesn't walk faster. Let's see. Big Block 402 says we got a local drag strip maybe going IHRA here. Right now, IHRA and WDRA seems to be the thing that everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. But let's see what happens, guys, because I'll be honest with you. Okay, and this is straight out of the mind of me, no one else. But those guys haven't actually put on a single event yet. So let's see what happens when they have an event, if they have an event, or if they continue to have events. Sanctioning bodies have only changed hands a few times in the course of history. And I think the thing that no one's looking at is that when you go back and you look at the times that they have changed, and even me, I've never crawled out of that. The AHRA has, and myself, have never crawled out of that I'm small business stuff, right? Like, we literally, I make enough money at the AHRA every year to fund the AHRA for the next year to start it off. I've never taken a dime from it. I've never gotten anything from it. It's literally just enough to keep itself going. Now, when the AHRA has changed hands 6 times since the demise of it the first time in 1984, and all of the times that it has been bought, that I'm the 6th owner of it, right? The 4 previous times, because Jim Tice did run it successfully. So the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th person that bought it, it didn't really do anything. It didn't go anywhere. And then within a few years, it was gone. And so we'll see what happens, guys. I wish them the best, but they still have a lot of hill to climb, and they have only started off. Just started. Hey, we're at the start of the trail. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of things that's going to come their way, I'm sure. Let's see. Dean Stevenson says, I did crash tests for the police and fatality surveys, and road salt applicators. ABS is supposed to come close to thresholding tire vulcanizing. It doesn't. And so unplugged will stop shorter. I guarantee it will, because when it started pulsating in the pedal, it was not stopping as fast. I threw the sucker in first and dumped the clutch. So,
but you got to be skilled driver though. See, the reason why the ABS works for the common person is because most people just don't know how to drive anymore. They like boxing gloves and a big cushion, and they just push pedals all the way down. They're not really feeling the car. They're just pointing the car. So right, well, yes.
Also the airbags and somebody on the side of you indicator and all the other stuff that's supposed to compensate for all these crap drivers to be good drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Big Block 402. They have events scheduled, even a 100K race. Not sure if AHRA is going to back that. No, probably not. AHRA is probably not going to back a 100K race. That's probably like Loose Rocker or somebody that puts on big races like that. That they normally throw out the big money, and they run around chasing sponsors to get that kind of cash for their big money event. But it really isn't big money. It's just big gamble. And I'll tell you why. Okay. So if you have a regular bracket race, here's what nobody's looking at on these big money bracket races. Okay. I'm looking at the screen right now in the 100K race. All you do is put your finger over the K part, right? And now you got 100. That's exactly what they're doing. Okay. So when you got a 100K payout race and you normally pay $100 and your entry fee is normally like $30 to run for that $100, guess what they charge you if they added 3 more zeros? 3 more zeros on the entry fee, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of how that works. It's nothing more than just a numbers game. And your chances of winning actually become less, because what happens is everybody sees that big dollar number and they all come running and they sell the whole thing out. But the more people they get into the gate, the less possibility of you winning is there, right? So that's just how that works. It's a smoke and mirrors kind of thing. I was kind of interested in and intrigued by them at the beginning when I first started doing the AHRA and thought about doing some big money bracket racing. But then I realized there's a possibility of big losing, right? Okay. You have to look at it from my perspective. My perspective is to put on an event that's enjoyable, it's family friendly, and it's cost effective. Okay. If I put on an event and we get 30 people through the gate and we run one round, okay, because it was a threat of rain all day, I still have to pay whatever that payout is. Okay. Now, let's say you get the same situation happens and all these people have pre-entered, but since it's going to rain that day, they want their money back, right? And they'll get their money back because they all pre-entered through like MasterCard or whatever. So they just dispute the claim, the payment, period. You won't get anything at all. And then you still got to pay someone. It's tough. It is a very tough game because you're really just trying to make it pay for itself, and then enough for you to drive there to do it.
Yeah.
Have it notice. All right, so let's. 2 Hex Garage has jumped in here. Hopefully, he's getting over his vid. Yeah, Shane's got it now, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what I got? It sucks.
Yeah, we used to say in the Navy that we got the syphilgon herpes AIDS. So.
Right. That's a good one.
Yeah. Let's see. John Wilburn says the bigger the payout, the faster the ringers who will circle the boat. Exactly. That's the big one. Is there's a lot of people come out, especially the heavy hitters, will come out and tow that far for a chance at $1 million or $100,000. So those things are a little bit. If you're kind of naive about bracket racing and you just love bracket racing, you'll find one of those things that will make you lose the love immediately. So, Colleen Tebow, you succeeded with No Name Nationals. No, one event does not make a sanctioning body. It is a good event, but I cannot take claim for that. That was myself and John Wilburn. John came to me with the basic idea, and then we framed it up and made it happen. That was it. But it is definitely not all on my back. let's see. No Name Nationals will have a blast in the pits if it rains. That's the thing I like about the No Name Nationals. Rain, shine, snow, no snow. You can still have an event. No one's going to care you go out and do donuts in the snow because they're going to hand out a freaking trophy and videotape the crap out of that all day, right? Yeah. They would. They wouldn't care what happened. And I think that's what I like about the No Name Nationals because, okay, does anybody remember what anybody ran numbers-wise there? No, because no one cared. No one cared about any of the numbers. No one cared about it was, hey, this guy beat Just Mopar Joe. Or, hey, this guy's got the fastest car I ever seen. Or, hey, Jezebel will kick the tail shaft out of it, right? That was what people remembered was stuff like that. And that's what it made it fun. It was no one cared about it and all the other stuff that people put the focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I liked about it. And it was a different. Okay. Dallas is Bill France and John Wilburn is Humpy Wheeler. I hope to never have this analogy applied to my name again. But John and I, here, I'll show you some. I'll see if I can even have it anymore. I think I got rid of it, actually. There was a comment that was put up when John and I announced the No Name Nationals. We're like 2 weeks in. Somebody put a comment up on one of the live streams we did that said, Motor Trend is so screwed. You guys put together a better community and audience in your spare time than they did for millions, right? And that, like, it rings so true. And it's sad because it's really just a well-run event. And, you know, some people would have you think that it wasn't run well at all.
You know that I've been to a lot of events. I was telling you this. It was one of the best run and as far as fun events. And I was only unfortunately there for one day because I had just finished drag week. But you know, I've been to the duct tape drags, zip tie drags. I've done them all, and that was actually more fun. And the environment was so much more relaxed than both of those combined. Now I still have a lot of friends from the West Coast where I've done those. But the No Name Nationals, though, like I told you, from an outside person looking in, it was really fun. Really fun. In fact, I had more people come over and love on the Slant 6 than I ever did.
See, okay, I guess it's just me and Pulido here, Professor P. All right, we're the only two people that attended both the Slanted Nationals and the No Name Nationals.
Yep.
Okay, and what we did was John came to me with the idea, and I based it around what I thought was the best event I had had, period, hands down. And the best event I had had was Slanted Nationals. There was not a big car turnout. There wasn't a lot of people there to see anything. I don't know how many cars was there, 30? It might have been 30 cars. There was not a big turnout.
No, because of the rain, that big rain that we had that night.
Right. But the atmosphere at the race was like nothing I'd ever seen before at anything I've ever seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all hung out. There was a guy that came from North Dakota, Ryan Peterson. He had a Slant 6 Valiant that was turbocharged. It ran, I don't know, 620, 615 in the 8th, right? Did you see it? You remember that one? Mm-hmm. And that dude was so laid back. After he got done making his 620 pass, which he was easily like one of the fastest cars at the place, right? Oh, yeah. This guy came from North Dakota, and he lived in his van for the weekend, and we set up tents and awnings and all kinds of stuff. And then once we got done racing, we would hang out and drink alcohol from like wherever everybody was from. We would bring our own alcohol, right? And then like just share it around, and we would grill stuff and just have a good time. And that was kind of the atmosphere I wanted to have at the No Name Nationals. So we based it around the format for the Slanted Nationals is what I started with. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Brian was there. He was at Slanted Nationals and No Name Nationals. So he came to spectate at both, but he saw the atmosphere, right? Yeah. And that was that was where we started from, and we just took it to the, I guess it'd be the full size level. I don't know, but people really seemed to enjoy it, and that I'm glad it did work that way because I loved the slanted nationals. It was so much fun. I took an ass beating and I lost so much money, but I tell you what, I didn't walk away with. I didn't walk away with not having a good time. I had a good time.
Yeah,
it was probably one of the best events. So, yeah. But all right, so we'll get on to something else. Now that I'm all nostalgic about the slanted nationals, that was so much fun, though.
Yeah, that was cool.
The least amount of fun part was when Tony came.
Right? Because he parked away from everyone and just was like totally like isolated himself. It's like, man, why'd you do that?
He isolated himself from everybody and then didn't want nothing to do with people. And it was like there was a lot of people there to see him.
Yeah.
You wanted to see him, you had to walk all the way out to BFE to go talk to the guy. And then he literally made like 2 passes, loaded up the car, and left.
Well, I called him out for a heads up. I knew he was going to beat me, but I was just like, I drove my car here. Let's just go out for an instant green heads up race, slant 6 versus slant 6.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, he didn't do anything bad. He just came there and was very antisocial, and then loaded up and left like right after the car got unloaded. He wasn't there long.
Hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, if that.
Yeah. And he missed all the fun, but okay. He also missed all the rain. So to be fair about the slanted nationals, and I know those numbers sound abysmally low, and they were, but we had 100% chance of rain that day. 100% chance of rain. Anybody who was thinking about coming pretty much turned around and left. There was essentially 30 hardcore people that showed up, win, lose, or draw, right, to be there at the first slant 6 race ever for, like a national event. And it did rain. It rained from like 3 to 4 in the morning. The reason why I know is we were up drinking booze at 3 or 4 in the morning when it started raining. And I went to bed then. And then we woke up the next day to put on the slanted nationals. And I felt terrible. But it was a blast. Man, was that thing a blast.
Yeah, my poor wife was in the Drury Inn, and they have an indoor like swimming pool area. And literally for 4 hours that day, she was in there with those kids, and they put on these mermaid things, and the screaming and the belching and the squawking in that echoey room. Oh, I felt bad for her. I felt bad for her.
Yeah, well, but it was a good time. So Buff Del Camp was asking, will there be another slanted nationals? This year, the plan was I wanted to take what the slanted national was, and to make it fair, I had to increase the car count. That was the only way to make it fair for anybody to even come. And so what we did was I kind of turned it into a inliner national challenge, is what it was called, 2022, and it was supposed to be held at Katy Dragway. The problem was gas shot up, if you remember, about March. Well, no, it's probably May, like $5 a gallon, and KD was having like abysmal bracket turnouts. I mean, like less than 20 people for brackets.
Wow.
And they ended up just dropping AHRA altogether. But the whole thing was that I was afraid that was going to, not necessarily that track or how all that played out, but I just thought it was essentially that's what was going to happen this year. So the best way to not lose your ass is to cancel the stuff before it happens. And that's what I did. And we were too deep into no-name nationals because we had started it in January. And so that's where we were with that one. I couldn't pull the plug on it. And thank God I couldn't, because gas was going to come back down. But folks like BNR Racing and stuff didn't help out, telling everybody it was going to be $20 a gallon by the time we went to the event. So
I got to tell you, though, people still would have showed up because there's so many people, just like myself, that started a YouTube channel, put a lot of time, a lot of effort just to get the 500 subs, that actually did the 500 subs. So they were coming regardless. That's what I was telling you, is that there was people going to show up regardless. It didn't make any difference.
I'm pretty sure everybody was going to show up anyway. A lot of people would have.
Yeah.
Buff saying, I asked because we have 2 cars with slants now. Well, stay tuned. I would like to have the Inliner National Challenge at one point in time, because the idea is not necessarily just the slant. I like the slanted stuff because you're taking something that's odd, something that doesn't have a huge part support, and you're building something that's fun, right, and enjoyable. And that's what sportsman racing is supposed to be about. And that's why I geared it specifically toward the slants to begin with, because that community was already there. You just needed to get it out and let everybody see it. But okay, so the thing that happened with the Slanted Nationals was I can't remember what day that thing was on. It was like it was a 3-day weekend. It was a 3-day weekend, and so was it Thursday and Friday?
Yeah, I think it was
Thursday and Friday. There was an event called the Boot Hill Fuel and Gas Drags at Sykeston Drag Strip, right, at Jeffers Motorsports Park. And then Saturday, I was having the Slanted Nationals. Was on Saturday. So a couple of the guys, because their cars would fit into the nostalgia realm, they towed in early and went to the Boot Hill Fuel and Gas Drags, and then stayed for the Slanted Nationals. And what had happened at that Boot Hill Fuel and Gas Drags is they had I want to say it was like an F or G gas dragster there that was a 3-liter. Man, I don't remember who makes those. It's like a 3-liter inline 4-cylinder, and it's 4 cylinders of a 292 Chevrolet 6-cylinder, right? And it's an inboard motor that you put on a boat, but they run them in mini sprints. And this guy had a Hillborn injection with a Vertex mag on this little 3-liter. Okay, and I didn't think nothing of it. I mean, it has like a Chevrolet small block timing chain cover and gear drive, and this little dinky dragster. It's popping, farting all over the place. And he drives it up to the starting line and winds this sucker up. And I'm telling you, it hit like, whatever note above high C, right, as it's doing a burnout. And it sung so beautifully. I'm like, wow, what the hell? Whatever I was doing, I stopped. And then I ran over there to check out what was going on. And it was that little dragster, small little sucker, with a 4-cylinder, 3-liter boat motor. And it ran like 620. Okay. And that thing probably had to be making 300 horse. And I thought, you know what? There is nothing for these little guys. Not only just the Slanted Nationals, but there's nothing for that guy to go to where he's going to get the press that he needs, right? Because this he's working with something that literally nobody's working with.
Right. Yeah.
And in it is just, it sounded amazing. And I thought there needs to be an event for those guys. So that's why we came up with the Inliner National Challenge. That was also when the Nelsons had said they were coming to the No-Name Nationals. We're like, you know what? The Nelsons are running a 4200 Vortec inline 6-cylinder. Those guys need their own place to do something like this. And if it could have the atmosphere of the Slanted Nationals, you couldn't beat that event. And it would be something so different that you had never seen it anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's what I was shooting for. So, and it didn't happen this year because gas was $5 a gallon in May and climbing towards $6. But Bill Makaiska sent us another $5 for that super chat. Thank you so much, Bill. I do appreciate every single one of those. It goes right back into the AHRA No-Name Nationals Fund. You should do Little Guys Under Displaced National event. No tubs, no slicks, and only steel panels allowed. Engines capped at 320 cubic inches. That might be the way to go. Because I was talking with somebody about this last night. Was small cubic inch V8s. Where there is nothing for them these days.
Yeah.
Zero, right? That's why nobody makes a small cubic inch V8 anymore, is because there's nothing for them. Nobody ever gets any praise for having a 265 Chevy that runs like a scalded dog. You know, my beloved 215 Buick. No one ever gets any praise for those. I just saw a 215 Buick, I believe was probably a marine engine, had 2 4-barrels on it from the factory. I've never seen that before. Why? Because there's no event that caters to those guys. And that might be the way to go, Bill. I wouldn't mind putting together an event called Under Displaced. And then it doesn't have to be just a V8. We can have all the inliner 6, inliner 4, you know, turbocharged, whatever you want. But I think a show like that would go really well, I do believe.
Yeah.
And Big Block 402 saying 330 cubic inches would be better. I don't know. I really don't know. I know. Let's see. If you capped it at 320, what would you lose? You would lose a lot of the early
340s. Yeah, 340s, 350s, but you would get the 318s and the 327s. So
273, right?
Yep.
Those are the ones that would be very interesting to see because no one's ever really catered to them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it might be worth it doing an event called Under Displaced, right? I do know that because I'm a Buick fan, I want to do one that I call, and I've kicked this around a few times, the sibling rivalry. Okay, it's Buick versus Olds versus Pontiac versus Cadillac, and I thought that would be cool because they never get their just due. There you go, 51 flat. He's got it. That's the Iron Duke 3.0.
Yeah, it's basically it's an engine that comes out of like Mercruiser is what it is.
And that's what it is. It's a Mercruiser 3-liter. Yep.
I did a lot of those IOs, basically inboard, outboard. I used to build a lot of engines for those, and you know when I lived in Southern California. So yeah, that's how come I knew what it was, Mercruiser.
Well, there's a ton of cars everybody is interested in doing something now. We have a 273 Barracuda. How about a 2.8? That's right. JV's little shop's doing his Hot Rod 2.8. There just isn't that stuff. And that's what I like is when people really think outside the box because there isn't parts to support them. You make things that work on them. You do true hot rodding. And that's what I like about it. It's really interesting. And there's a lot of outside the box thinking.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole reason why I gravitated towards the Slant 6. Is because of that reason right there. It's like, what can I do to make this better with no parts? There's really nothing. They have intakes and a few headers. Other than that, everything's on you. That's it. You got to figure it out.
Well, that's what I think makes true hot rodders.
Yeah,
you know, like I said, I was trying to stay away from the guys that were literally just buying cylinder heads and then bolting them on the car and then running all over me. They didn't do anything except for buy some cylinder heads.
Yeah.
You know, I did that 2 weeks ago, and then I poured it in with garbage, and it still didn't run like this. So, okay, so Dustin Gable Garage says, Dallas, just wait until all of us are big-time YouTubers and do content creator match races like they did with the famous guys from the 70s. That would be cool.
Absolutely.
That would definitely be cool. And in Two Hacks, that was who I was talking with, was Jeff from Two Hacks. We were talking about a Chevy 302 at 8,000 RPM. That would be cool. Those don't happen anywhere. If you had your what did he call it? The under. Man, no, he called it something. The under displaced. I'm going to screenshot that right now. Under displaced. That is a cool name.
That's a good one, Bill. I like that.
Yeah. All right. So John's saying Dustin O'Brien just needs to get his car together and make that happen. Let's see. All right. So now we're kind of caught back up, but Bush car in the 90s used the 2.8. I did not know that. I know they used the 3.8 Buick. They used the 231 Buick.
I have a question for you though. What would you do about, like, say, the Coyotes? And would it be an older? Would there be a date cutoff? Because a lot of those are going to be like in the 320s, I believe, or 318s or something. Or, I forget their cubic inch, but they're a really small engine. Would you allow that, or is this going to be like a, up to 1975 or something like that, and later.
No, I don't see why you have to put a cap on, but you can recommend separate eras. And if
Yeah,
you were to look at era and say, okay, like you'd have to split it somewhere around 1993 or 4, because that's where it really started to take. Okay, well, wherever the 4.6 modular came out, 92, that's where you got to split it. Right?
What about let's because you remember I did a lot with Hondas. A B16. You're going to have a Honda Civic show up with a B16, and he's going to clean clock on everybody.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to have to put them in new school and old school classes, right?
Yeah.
And your classes can't be based on cubic inch at all, because these cars are all small cubic inch, right? But you're going to have something that caters to everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would work it. I mean, we're just kicking the whole idea around right now.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time to really figure this stuff out, how to make it work. But yeah, I don't know. It would definitely, there is a place for it. I don't think a Honda importing motor sounds as good as that Mercruiser 3-liter. I don't.
No, it doesn't.
And you'll never sell me on that ever. But yeah.
Even when VTEC kicks in, come on. Even when VTEC kicks in.
That 3-liter sounded so damn good. I ran to the fence to see what that was.
Yeah.
Because it just sounded so freaking cool, man. And it was up at it had to be like 8, 9, 10 grand. It was high. But I always thought it would be kind of cool to have. And maybe that's what we should break it up as: 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, and 8 cylinders. And there is no difference between new and old stuff.
Yeah. And then just have a runoff. Whoever wins their class, then they just do a 2 out of 3 match race or whatever they do. You know what I mean?
What would be really cool is if, like, you know how you when you bracket race something, it's all based on time difference, right?
Yeah.
But you don't bracket race at all. You do, but you say, okay, what's the V8 run? The V8 runs 670. Okay, well, the 4-cylinder is half the cylinders. So then technically you just take half the time and add that on, and that's what they got to run.
Yeah,
right.
That Honda's probably going to run, a 6 flat is what I'm getting at.
Well, a turbocharged one, yeah, probably would.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just kicking it around, it's going to make it really hard with, power adders and no power adders. And
yeah,
man, I'm all about the naturally aspirated stuff. If you can make naturally aspirated stuff work, you can make a turbo work. There's no problem with that.
Oh, absolutely. Because you make a natural aspirated work, and then you just put boost to it, and it makes it better. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, Albert Einstein to Bill Nye the Science Guy. That's really what you're looking at. When you look at naturally aspirated, you got some freaking magic to make them work. You got to be good at it. But,
John Wilburn's making fun of me down there at the bottom.
yeah, I see that. It says, when Shane says, VTEC kicked in, yo, and Dallas is like, snore. Me, I'm laughing.
Yeah.
The No Cubes Nationals, yeah. Maybe, I don't know. It sounds like something that would be a lot of fun, though. I'm sure it would be. Yes, right here. Where is it at? That's the win of the night. That there is the the comment of the night. Hayabusa powered lawn tractor for the win.
Absolutely.
There's actually the golf cart, Hayabusa golf cart, right? That'd be the guy that you'd book him in to come run for just exhibition runs.
The ringer. That's the ringer, right?
Yeah. 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 Well, we're up to about 2 hours now. I know Shane has got to be dragging.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. So anything you need to plug, Shane?
No. I was actually going to have a new video out, but I just couldn't get it done. But I'm going to be making a video putting my fuel injection onto my Slant. It's going to be a throttle body, and I'm going to run that for a year while I build my multi-port. My sequential fuel injection engine on the side for the Slant 6. And I should have that out probably Sunday. I should have that out. So that's basically the only thing that I'm going to have out. Really, really nothing plugged. I still have this thing. This tells you how sick I've been. This is still sitting right next to
the same spot. Yeah,
same spot.
Just like when we came back from PRI, that I got those license plates for Riley for her Jeep.
Yeah.
They were literally sitting here on my desk, the same spot. And I saw them the other day. I'm like, damn, I'm a dick because I could have sent them to her for Christmas. And so I just dropped them in the mail yesterday morning. But yeah, I felt bad. I didn't even think nothing of them. You know, I've been so busy. And then I got the whole season worth of rule book to put together. I got to get started on the season stuff. And I'm still trying to get car stuff done. And I haven't even put the cover on my camper yet. And I'm supposed to do that before fall. So it's just everything's been coming down to some really weird stuff. So
if there's a question you guys had that you just wanted to ask or just didn't want to put it up here, you once again, Slant Daily Garage at yahoo.com. Once again, Slant Daily Garage at yahoo.com, and I'll get to it. I was actually just reading this one. There is. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was actually going to say that there is really no rule of thumb on this because it really comes down to, first off, the manufacturing, the type of ring, and so on and so forth. I usually, man, I don't know if to give a number here.
Okay. I'm going to save your butt on this one.
No, I want to say it.
I'm not swooping in to save you. I'm not that. I'm humble normally. I just did a video on this less than a week and a half ago.
Okay, good, perfect. I'll let you take the fall on this one. Go see your video.
Yeah, you go watch the video that I gapped the rings on a stock engine for boost, and I have the flyer that we picked up from PRI from Hastings Rings booth, and it gives you a breakdown on how to gap the rings properly, and you need to know the type of piston you're running. So is it cast? Is it forged? Is it hyper-eutectic? You need to know the type of ring you're running, right? You need to know the bore size and how much boost you're going to run, right? Those are the major factors you got to know before you can come up with a number. Putting Professor P here on the spot with all those variables is kind of rough because a number that you throw out there might work. Like, okay, rule of thumb, we were using 28 thousandths for anything 20 pounds of boost and up, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say 20 to 30 on the gap for anything like a Gen 3 Hemi or an LS when you're putting, that type of boost. Yeah, absolutely.
When I did this video, I found that since my bore on my Buick is 3.84, and that's 40 over, bore plays a big factor in this because it's how much surface area the ring has.
Absolutely.
Okay, to displace heat. And the less surface area it has, the more gap you're going to need, right? Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm saying that wrong. The less surface area it has, the more heat has an effect on it. But the bigger the diameter of the ring, the more area it can grow. Okay? So bore plays a big factor in it. So make sure you do your homework. Find that video. It shows that chart in there. If you want, you can sit down and do your math. I did the math on the video just to show everybody how to do it. So
now Hastings is different than Total Seal. So you gotta go to your remanufacturing because I can tell you right now because I've got them both in the garage, and they're totally different.
All right. Well, I'm just looking at all these guys saying, "Good night, I'm out of here," and it's like here we are we're still trudging along with some tech talk. So, yeah, there you go. There's the name of the night: Cubically Challenged National. Perfect.
That's the best one. Well, I like that one, and I like the other one that we're talking about earlier.
I'm just screenshotting them all because I'm going to come up with something. It does sound like it'll be a lot of fun though. So until next week, hopefully Shane feels better.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Make sure to like and subscribe down at the bottom or tell us we're a bunch of losers. I don't care either way. But as long as you put something and you smash that like button. So
right.
Yeah. All right. But till next week, I guess we're out of here. Thanks for all the people that have bought AHRA merch. That is how we put on events. So that money goes directly into that. So I'll see you next week.
Yeah, take it easy. And are we going to be that same type of thing going to see you next year? Did we say?
Oh,
do we see you next year?
Yeah, technically we would see you next year, guys.
See you next year, right? I'm the dad now, right? I'm that dad.
Yeah, we're out here.
See you later.